One morning, Emma is at home when she sees a cat drowning in the fountain outside. Unfazed, she simply closes the curtain and goes on with her school routine. She checks the date on her calendar and arranges her trophies, revealing her organized and high-achieving nature. At breakfast with her widowed father, David, she shares that her school will soon be awarding a medal to the top student, and she's determined to win it. She also casually brings up whether David plans to date again, but insists it doesn't bother her. Just then, her Aunt Angela arrives with news. She's found a new nanny for Emma. Emma objects, saying she doesn't want anyone new after the last nanny passed away, and begs Angela to look after her instead. Angela explains that she already has work commitments. Emma then mentions the dead cat in the fountain, prompting David to go outside and remove the body. Later at school, a wasp flies into the classroom, causing chaos among the kids. Emma remains composed, traps the wasp under a cup, and gently releases it out the window. Milo asks how she managed that, and she explains that her dad told her wasps only sting when they feel threatened, and there's a nest in their yard. Meanwhile, David meets with Chloe for an interview and ends up hiring her as Emma's new nanny. Later, Emma overhears Milo complimenting a girl's watch. While the girl is outside playing, Emma deliberately makes her trip. Then, pretending to be helpful, she assists the girl while discreetly stealing the watch. That evening, Emma stands in front of the mirror rehearsing how to smile sweetly and appear charming. The next morning, she wears her best dress and asks David to help her look flawless. At a school event, the medal is awarded to Milo. Emma claps along with everyone else, but her tapping foot betrays her frustration. After the ceremony, David speaks with Mrs. Ellis, who says Emma is a brilliant student but lives in her own head. During the celebration afterward, Emma complains to David that she deserved the award and criticizes Milo's faults. David corrects her, so she backs off and pretends to be happy for him. While the adults chat, Emma invites Milo to go play in the forest. They walk up a cliff overlooking the ocean. Milo becomes uneasy when Emma starts acting strangely. Not long after, Emma returns alone to the party and tries to convince David it's time to leave. When Milo's parents ask about him, Emma claims she hasn't seen him for a while. Moments later, screams erupt. The kids have found Milo's body on the beach. His parents rush over and try CPR, but it's too late. That night, David talks to Angela, expressing his concern about how this will impact Emma. Emma secretly listens from another room. The next morning, David tries to talk to Emma about Milo, but she insists there's nothing to discuss. Later, Chloe arrives and David gives her a quick tour before heading out. In the bathroom, Chloe finds some pills and quietly takes a few. She then watches a movie with Emma, but mocks the storyline, which irritates her. Chloe brings up Milo, and Emma calmly says there's no point being sad. He's already gone. Chloe casually asks if David has a girlfriend. Emma says he did, but she didn't like her, so he ended it. Chloe then reveals she saw Emma's stealing and uses it to blackmail her. Now, Emma can break bedtime rules and eat ice cream with cookies, while Chloe waits on her. A little later, the school holds Milo's funeral. Everyone mourns, except Emma. David speaks with Milo's mom, who says the medal is missing and asks him to share any photos from the party. Back at home, while David is tidying up Emma's room, he nearly discovers the medal hidden under her bed, but she distracts him just in time. Later, David checks the photos and notices Emma constantly staring at the medal. The next day, Mrs. Ellis arrives with a lawyer. They reveal Emma was last seen going into the woods with Milo and want to know if she saw anything. Since Milo couldn't swim, it's odd he ended up near the cliff. Chloe notices Emma eavesdropping and suspects what really happened. When the lawyer suggests Emma might be responsible for Milo's death, Emma intentionally smashes a cookie jar in the kitchen, diverting everyone. The lawyer and Ellis leave while David tends to her injury. He questions her, but Emma denies knowing anything and accuses Ellis of lying, claiming she never liked her. She fakes being upset about Milo just to ease David's concern. Afterward, David goes to take a shower. When he finishes, he finds Chloe in his room. She claims she just came to ask something. The next morning, she chats with David in his workshop. He asks how Emma's doing, and Chloe pretends to like her, but is clearly more interested in David's personal life. That afternoon, Chloe takes Emma out for a walk and mentions David's been asking questions. He's suspicious. However, Chloe says she's been covering for Emma. Their walk pauses when they see Ellis visiting Milo's house. Chloe mocks Emma, saying she'd better come up with a believable story fast because the police are closing in. Once home, Emma reminds Chloe that she knows about the stolen pills, and if Chloe talks, she will too. Chloe shrugs it off and tells a grim tale about how killers die in the electric chair. Sometime later, Chloe searches for Emma but can't find her. She fails to notice that the wasp nest is gone. In the bedroom, she eventually discovers the missing medal under the bed. Meanwhile, Ellis is driving when a wasp suddenly appears in her car. She panics but manages to stop safely. After shooing it out the window, she resumes driving, unaware that the nest is stuck to her seat's headrest. That evening, David returns home, unaware that the medal is now hanging from the lamp in his bedroom. When Emma comes in to greet him, she notices the medal and quickly takes it. David sees she's trying to sneak away with something and demands she show it. Chloe walks in and says she found the medal under the bed earlier. Emma tries to deny knowing anything about it, but David presses her until she finally explains. She says they were playing in the woods, and since she won their game, Milo let her wear the medal. After that, she doesn't know what happened to him. David is angry that she kept it, especially since Milo's mother wanted to bury him with it. Emma says she thought that was a dumb idea. Later, David drives off and calls Angela, asking her to help him find a psychiatrist for Emma. While driving, David passes a crash site filled with police and paramedics, but doesn't stop to find out who the victim is. That night, he dreams about his pregnant wife, and Ellis appears dressed as a doctor, informing them that something is wrong with their daughter. The next morning, David finds Chloe dead in the fountain, and Emma blames Milo, who shows up looking like a zombie. But this turns out to be another part of his dream. At breakfast, Emma scolds Chloe for exposing the medal, and Chloe snaps back, calling her a little psychopath. David then takes Emma to Milo's house and makes her return the medal, retelling the same story again. Milo's mother is overwhelmed and says she's still processing Ellis's death. She explains Ellis crashed after a wasp nest appeared in her car. Emma says she's really upset because Ellis was her favorite teacher, then persuades David to go back home. While walking down their street, Emma declares they no longer need to mention Milo again and happily skips off, asking for cupcakes. Later, David notices the wasp nest has vanished from his workshop. That night, he starts researching behavioral disorders in children and begins to suspect Emma might be a sociopath. The next day, he tells Emma they're visiting a doctor, but he misses the blood on her hand. At the clinic, David speaks first, detailing Emma's lack of empathy. The doctor then talks to Emma, who insists she feels fine. When a doctor mentions Milo, Emma says she cried for 2 days. They continue chatting, and David is stunned to hear them laugh. The doctor reassures David that Emma is okay and says there's no reason to worry. When they get home, David finds Chloe outside sunbathing in revealing clothes. Chloe later checks on Emma and mocks her for having no friends. She also says she's trying to date David, and Emma warns her to stay away. Chloe smugly responds that she's not afraid of her. That night, David prepares for a date, and before he leaves, Emma tells him she never wants a stepmom. While Chloe watches TV, the lights flicker. She hears a noise and follows it to the workshop. Once inside, the door slams shut behind her. She tries to escape, but can't. Another door closes, triggering a trap that sets the room on fire. Emma watches through the window as Chloe punches the glass. Injuring herself, she backs away in pain, and the fire quickly engulfs her, killing her as Emma watches, seemingly pleased. Later, David arrives home to find firefighters and police on the scene. They inform him that Chloe died and the workshop has burned down completely. David vomits from the shock. He rushes to hug Emma, who told the authorities Chloe used to smoke in the workshop. After everyone leaves, David demands the truth about the cliff. Emma explains she took the medal and Milo got mad, so she pushed him to get him away. She says it was an accident and didn't believe him when he said he couldn't swim. David then asks about the first nanny, and Emma coldly says the woman grabbed her arm, so she kicked her downstairs. Emma remarks that the nanny was the adult and should have protected herself. David explodes in anger as he confirms Emma was behind Chloe's and Ellis's deaths. Emma yells back that she never wanted a stepmom and complains that David didn't care about Chloe stealing. Afterward, David tries calling the doctor, but she's on vacation. The next morning, the sheriff contacts David to schedule questioning for him and Emma. David replies that Emma is seriously unwell and he's tied up with work, so they agree to meet Monday. David then wakes Emma and tells her to pack because they're leaving. After a long drive, they arrive at a lake house that David usually dislikes. Housekeeper Brian greets them and heads to his own place. That evening, David calls Angela to update her and remembers there's a gun in the nightstand. Later, the sheriff informs David over the phone that the fire was intentional and lab results will soon reveal the culprit. After the call, David heads to the bathroom, where a shadow creeps behind the shower curtain. Suddenly, a burnt hand grabs him, and he finds Chloe's body in the tub, but it's just a nightmare. The next day, David ignores another call from the sheriff. Emma goes for a walk in the woods and returns to find her dad watching a documentary on sociopaths. The sheriff texts again asking to talk, but David still doesn't respond. He notices Emma watching and admits he doesn't trust her anymore. That night, David stares at the gun, torn on what to do. After he dozes off, Emma kisses his cheek and turns on every gas valve before heading to the lake. David is woken by the strong gas smell and hurries downstairs, shutting off the valves just in time. He spots Emma near the water and walks over to ask her why. She explains she wants to live with Angela. David gently takes her hand and brings her inside. Staring at his wife's photo, David crushes some sedatives and stirs them into a drink for Emma. When she asks for whipped cream, he leaves both mugs and goes to get it. They drink hot chocolate, and Emma soon drifts off. David then calls Angela, recounting everything Emma has done, but she doesn't believe him. He tells her he had to make a difficult decision. In the middle of the night, Emma wakes up and goes to David's room. She puts the gun in his hand and pulls the trigger, but the shot misses and hits the pillow. David wakes, realizing he's groggy. Emma had switched the mugs, and he drank the sedatives instead. He manages to wrestle the gun away from Emma, who grabs his phone. As David falls off the bed reaching for the weapon, Emma calls 911, crying that her dad is trying to kill her. She locks herself in the bathroom. David follows and kicks the door down, raising the gun. At that moment, Brian enters, and Emma screams for help again. Sirens approach in the distance. Just as David prepares to shoot, Brian fires first, killing him. David gasps one last time before collapsing. Moments later, the police arrive. Brian tells them David tried to murder Emma. Angela also arrives and says David had been mentally unwell, then embraces Emma, who smiles subtly with satisfaction.